So let me go down here and just see where we're at. Focus. There. SIDUR RECHOVOT NAHAR. We're in the chakra section and we're putting on our tefillin. We went through the Matbei Bracha. The Matbei Bracha is basically the same every place. So we're going to come now to some more magic words. They're not magic words. It's not something being said. We're going to put on the tefillin. So he says, as we do, let's just look at what he has on the page. He has the word Ratzuah, which means the straps that you're strapping your tefillin on. And then under that, we're going to be, without reading the pieces on the side, just looking at them. This is the name Kale in a Milui form. It's a gematria of 185. And there's another one. There's two Kales. What they're doing there, well, he says this is the flow of light. So then you're supposed to take that and tie that together with Zund, who apparently, we know are the names of Vaya Adni. And then the word Chotim and the nose, it has something to do with the nose of Eric Anpin. So this is what the nose of Eric Anpin apparently looks like. I'm not sure how to explain it. So he has some explanation here, and we'll try to get to it. So before we get to the Kitzoni is in Nai, the Bria. Well, it's caught me caught here. So let's say what we're going to say about the Kitzonius of the Nai, the Bria. So he says that according to this, if we read it backwards, that Olam Bria, there's a Chabad Chagat Nai. So when you put on the Ratzuos, you're actually concentrating on the lower part, which is the Nai. But it's not just so simple. It's also on the outside of the outside. Now, the outside of the outside, I don't know which outside he's talking about. We're going to find out. But this, just looking at the big stuff, this is the outside, and this is a picture of the outside of the outside. So this means that there is an inside to the outside. If you wanted to say outside, just say outside. But he wants to say that there's an outside inside of the outside, and this is the outside of the outside, so it means that's the most further away from what? I don't know. So here is the Nook Nikud for get it out, Bob, Netzach, Hod, and Yesod. Remember the Yesod we always say is split. So these, he says, is the phrase Zion El Yonas, the 7 upper spheros, the Chitzonius, the Yetzirah. So it came out of Bria. The one who's going to go into Yetzirah, and we're going to just look at the lights. These are, let's count them. He said there's 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Kesser, this is the upper 7. He has it, not Manuka, the letters that represented it, I guess you would just say the abbreviations are Zion El Yonos, the 7 upper ones. And what are the 7 uppers? Kesser, Chochmah, Bina, Das, Chesed, Gevurah, and Tiferes. Now the significance of this is a little bit lost on me, but I'm just trying to do the best I can. Then he says, Zion El Yonos, the Benimios, the Chitzonius, the Siyah. Now we're in the lowest possible place. So this is to bring all of this once again. The Panemius of the Kitzonius just looks exactly like the Kitzonius of the Kitzonius. The question is that what is it? What is its origin? So this is coming from the Panemius of Kitzonius. Now, but let's see what he actually writes on this so that we can try to understand. So you're putting, in the middle of you're putting on the Ratzuah. Now, I'm thinking, well, the first thing you do is you put on the arm tefillin. So I'm not sure how this works. So let's see. Let's read. He said you have the word Reshua, which is a gematria of 370. So 370 is 185 plus 185. And then he said Lakashra I Mabaila, and to take that with her husband, that's Zun, and make a yichud in Zun, which is a Vaya Adni. And then I don't know really what these are. Apparently the symbols that represent the nose. I just don't know because he says this is the Chotem of Eric Anpin. Now, what's obvious from this is that Olam Atzilus, which is Eric Anpin, is the place where the letters appear. They appear in our mind. Zer Anpin is they're really much more physical, but in Eric Anpin, this is where they appear for the first time. We see that they're there. Now let's look at the first part. The Gimel Shin Ayin, he says, Yekavin the kasher shkinta in Bible. So this is Zachar ben Nook. The Yachtach of the Kshor Ozach of the Ratzuah. So you have in mind this, that you're going to tie together with the straps. How you're going to bind them together. The straps are going to do this. So now he's telling you the Kavana. So you may not need to know every single part of this, but as much as of it as you could know, you would be good. Osach b'ritzua shuhu sod or makif, and this ritzua, right, because you wrap it around your arm, or you sit, or it not rigged, but it's placed like a crown on top of your head. So he says ritzua shuhu sod or makif shemispara shin aleph. So he's saying that this name, spelled like this, the name Kale spelled out like that, he says is what? Shuhu Sod or Makif. It's or Makif Shem is Parish and Island. The Horim is 370 lights. We're in the light stage, which is the Mispar of the name Kale in its Milui form. So I think we saw that. Okay, this is the Milui of the name Kale. It's 185 plus 185. Then we go down to the kasher im bailo. So this is the wrapping he's telling us, and the placing it upon your head is a way of being makasher her to her husband, which is Zer Anpin. Again, we're in the Olam Atzilus. So the hamshich rucha the chai, and the idea is this is take the breath that's coming out of life breath, or let's say life, or the nekev small of the left nostril, the chotem, Eric Anpin, of the nose of Eric Anpin. So what did he say? The chamshik rucha. So there's going to be breath come out of the nostril. Which nostril? The left nostril. Why the left? Maybe we could find out. So read again. The hamshik rucha the chaim and nekev small the chotem Eric Anpin. Then he says it's the letters Vav Dalet, the Mivui, Yud Vav Dalet. So you have the Vav and the Dalet, or the Mivui Yud Vav Dalet, the Sag. Derech small on the left side of Eric Anpin, because that's where the Chitzonius is located. The Derech small, Gevura de Zer Anpin, because going down the left line, the Kesser the Nook Omed Sham, and you're going to take this breath. I didn't really understand it, so I'm going to read it again. I didn't understand its explanation. Here, what I see is if you have the letter Hey, inside the Hey is a Yud, and outside the Hey is a Yud. That's the number 25. Then you have Vav Aleph Vav, which is 13. Then you go back, and you're going to have the Hey. This time it's going to have the Vav Dalet and the Yud. So this is Hey is 5. The Yud is 10, is 15. And Vav Dalet is 10. It's 25. Now the significance of it is I don't want to say. I'm just looking at it. I mean, it sounds like 5 times 5, but of course, what are you going to do? What is it? What's the purpose? What's going on there? He says, but that is the breath that's coming out of the left nostril. Chitzonius. Then he says the Chitzonius nigh the Bria. So first he introduces the light, and now he tells you some characteristics of it. It's the Chitzonius of the Chitzonius. Remember that we said if you have a Chitzonius of the Chitzonius, you could have a Panemius of the Chitzonius. You want to go on, you can have a Chitzonius of the Panemius and a Panemius of the Panemius. So these are all the tools that we're working with here. How to use it, what it means. Well, he says do it, because that's what it is. If you have the time, most people do not. But if you have the time, you go to the synagogue and you start going around the Aron, the bima, and you do all the different things. The matbea bracha when you put on the talis, and the matbea bracha when you put on the tefillin. You go through all of that. It takes time. You have to learn how to do that. I'm not at that place right now. So he says, lahafrid, to separate the kali, make hitzonius the hitzonius. What's the hitzonius of the hitzonius? Nai debria. It reads all together. Hitzonius the hitzonius of the nai debria. Here's the picture. This is Menuka of the nai. This is Netzachod Yisod. The bria. So down at the bottom of bria. V'lahamshech lahem mochim the olomos the olomos. Yeah, he bring down the mochin of the different olomos. I'm not sure which olomos he's talking about. Together with their lights, within the ranchi the nefesh the neshama, which is the ranchi, the complete set of lights of the nefesh the neshama. Now, let's go back over it. Inside of the neshama is a complete naranchi. That's nefesh, ruach, neshama, chay, yechida. So in there we the neshama light that's inside the concept of nefesh of the naranchi. So naranchi, the first part is the nefesh. Nefesh usually refers to the highest kiyus of the body, something like that, something physical. He says, we're reading backwards, im mochin de olomos, together with the mochin. I'm going to see mochin. I don't see any mochin here. These are all oros. So he says, so let's go back to the beginning. So we got to that part. Let's read the beginning from the right to the left. Lahafre vakali. So the idea of bringing down these lights is to separate the kali. Mechitzonius de chitzonius, which is the most closest part, that's what he's trying to say to the kali, of the nai de bria, of the nai of olam abria. And then lahamshech lechem mochim de olomos. Now it's going to bring them mochin. The mochin cover over these oros, together with more lights, with the lights of the naranchi, the nefesh, the neshama. Okay, and we kind of went through those last two. So we'll see them again. We'll see them again, all the different wrappings and stuff like that. Then he comes over here. We said this before. The Zion El Yonas, the Kitzonis, the Yitzira. He's going to show it to us. This is what the lights look like there. Now remember that. I don't know. They never use the word formation by its seedless, but what it is where I said before is where the appearance of letters. These letters are going to be the building blocks of all reality. But take out your atomic microscope and see if you can see letters inside of the walls of the room that you're sitting in right now, etc. So it's infinitely smaller than anything that we understand. I think that's a really important part, is that Hashem not only surrounds us, that's the concept of a makif, but he's infinitely, in our reference, because we always think of big as beautiful, as something extremely small, beyond our range of understanding, infinitesimally small. So these are the oros of that area. So he said the hafre bezakali, mechitzonius the chitzonius zayin to remove them for the top part of the za the yitzira, because we're going from bria, the bottom part of bria, to the zayin el yonas to of yitzira. The lachamshek bechem mochim the holomos, and to bring down to them, to cause to flow into them, the mochim that come from all of the olomos, and I'm not sure, but it's usually bia, silas, bri, yitzir, and asiya, but exactly what he means, that in each side of them are the other olomos with the same patterns. Im the ranchi the ruach, with the set of lights. This is number 25, as I mentioned that before, because you have an under naranchi, each one of them has its own naranchi. So that's 25, that's 5 of each of the 5. And he says also the Ruach. And we had said previously that Ruach refers to Zeranpin, Chagat, and Katnas, amongst other things. So he says, well, this is going down into Yetzirah, and it's the same old lights, but they're coming from a slightly different location. This is the Kitzonius of the Kitzonius of Yetzirah is where this is going. And then he shows you the Zion Elyonos, the Penimios, the Kitzonius, the Sia, the 7 upper spheros. It's the same thing again. The Kitzonius, the Sia, the Penimius, the Kitzonius. And not only are we taking the Kitzonius of the Kitzonius and we're bringing it down to a lower world. Now, why the Kitzonius? Because if we think of all of them one inside the next, that means that of the upper, let's say the most Penimi part, its inside, its outside is going to be touching the inside of the parts of down below it. So these are all fitting one inside to the next. The lahafred ha-klipos, and now we're going deeper. Mipinimius, the kitzonius of the Zion Elyonos, the tzia, to really try to remove that out of its tzia. Now just imagine that you had the time and that you weren't rushing off to work, which is what you see mostly in synagogues in the morning. People got to go to work and still have to make a living, and you have to make this compromise, and you have to do things in a short form. But if you were Sri Dovlevsky or other people who learned Kabbalah for, that was their life, they have time for this. I'm getting older, maybe I'm going to have time. So he says that the Gitzoni Zer Azayan El Yonas the Ratzias, Velaham Shech Bechem Mochim, to bring them what? Mochim, which is a covering over these oros. What were the Mochim to come from? They're going to come from the Neshamos in the Ranki, the Nefesh. Let's read it backwards and try to figure out what we're talking about. We're talking about Nefesh. In that Nefesh are 5 other lights, which are called, I read it wrong. In that Nefesh, which is the lowest of the light, we have included within it are 4 of the 5 lights. Now, the 4 of 5 lights of Nefesh, I think it's what it's saying. Nefesh, 4 of the 5 lights, there's no, because this is a Nefesh. So, but it's the Ranchi part, the Nefesh, together with only the Ranchi part of the Naranchi. Now, so I'm thinking that this is hard to picture, but you can't really. I think this is the thinking. My thinking that I learned from Rabbi Nachman of Breslov in his writings is that repetition of this will actually bring you inside. It's like going around the circle and keep getting more and more inside. So even though I don't know why he says the Rantki, which represents actually the Zeranpin part of the Nefesh, with it, that part of the whole Naranchi, that's the Nefesh over here, that Nun. Together, this is all coming down with the Neshamos. Neshama is an or of Mochin, the Mochin to those Neshamos. The lahamshik behem. So let's go back to the beginning. Now we have to work out the end. I'm working out the end before I can understand the beginning. Lahafrid al klipos. So all of these oros that we're putting on, what are you doing when you're putting on the Ratzuah? You're actually separating out the klipos. You're binding yourself to an or panimi or like that. Binding itself is the kitzonius. So we're on the kitzonius, and we're attacking, or we're using this light to hafrid, to separate the klipos, the panimius, the kitzonius, from the panimius of the kitzonius. So what did he say here? He says, okay, lahafrid, no problem. There are klipos in the panimius of the kitzonius. Zion El Yonos the Sia. So we're starting this, the Hafrid, we're bringing this to separate them out. V'lahamshech bechem mochin, and bring them now, mochin, that is mochin, to cover over these oros. So the mochim are together with the neshamos, which is the oros, with the ranchi, the nefesh, with the complete set of lights that goes with the ruach nefesh chayin yechida, the nefesh. Now, why this? So Rabbi Mimran teaching me this said, don't ask why. I'm thinking that if I see it enough, I'll understand. That's what I'm praying for. That if I see it enough, I'll be able to understand why we're dealing with, and he'll tell me somewhere along the line, why we're dealing with the ranchi of the ranchi, the nefesh. So I'll take one more step. We're dealing with the nefesh. The nefesh has 5 oros within it. We're looking at 4 of those oros, which is ruach, neshama, chayin, yechida. That's the top. Let's say that's the top 4. Those top 4 are part of a complete set of lights. So we're not taking the nefesh, because the nefesh, I think, is here. So I don't know. And then it's a ranchi. So ranchi really goes mostly with Zeranpin. It's the middle part, and maybe that's a Lashon Yichud. I don't know. But then you see here the Kesser comes down. Chachma, Bina, Das, split. Chesed, Gevurah, and Tiferes, split. This is Baruch Fleischman. This is RECHOVOT NAHAR from the RASHASH, SHALOM. I think that's the same thing. The Tikkun Elevator Kolo here. Thanks for listening.